Hello and welcome back to Sharks Happen. On today's show we're going to go over some attacks on surfers, an attack on a spear fisherman, a swimmer. We'll have a what were you thinking, have some comments at the end of the show, and some discussions about some of the shark news that's come up. The latest attack over there seemed a little bit interesting, so we'll go over that a little bit over in Australia. So stick around, it's going to be a great show. Okay, we're going to start out the show. We're going to head over to Pothin Island. That is over in Reunion. The date on the attack is November 24th of 1980. Jean-Michel Pothin, he was 22 years old and he was out doing some spearfishing off Reunion Island. He's out there at 3 o'clock p.m. It doesn't say how far from shore, depth of water, or even if he has speared a fish yet, how long he had been out there fishing. But all we know is he was spearfishing, and at 3 p.m. he gets attacked. He gets 2 bites from a shark. They reported the name of the shark, and it had like Grand Blanches in there, but it had a requin in there also. So they said that it could either be great white shark, which that's not going to be it. I think the waters there are too warm for the great white. The other one is a silver tip shark, which is a reef shark, and that would be a likely, culprit to be attacking you in warm waters like that. And when you're out spearfishing, who knows the depth of the water, if he was around a coral reef, what the conditions were, what the environment was. I haven't been able to find that. So that goes down as an attack, a 2-bite attack, not an attempt to predate. I didn't say that there was any flesh removal, so he probably just had to go in and get stitches. Didn't say anything about any kind of damage to arteries or to nerves. So he gets his 2 bites and he heads in and survives. It was an 8-foot shark. We just don't know for sure what kind. So we're going to put this down as an attack, not an attempt to predate, by a 6-foot shark. It was 1.8 meters, and we'll move on. Okay, now we're going to head over to Boa Viagem Beach, and that is over in Recife, Brazil. The date on this attack, July 24th of 1994. Carlos Frederico Gomes Martins, that's his name. Carlos Frederico Gomes Martins, 15 years old. He is out and he is doing some surfing. He's in an area of surfing where surfing and swimming is banned because of the high risk of shark attack. And 3 hours into his surfing that day, there's no lifeguards obviously, so he's out there for 3 hours. And he's laying on his board waiting to catch a wave. And he says he felt the shark bite his left foot. Suddenly his left foot is in a shark's mouth. So the shark was holding his foot there for a little while, and then it took it off, removed his foot. And he says he's turned and he started to paddle his way back to shore. And in the process, he could feel the shark underneath the surfboard trying to bite his hands. He was worried about losing one of his hands as he's paddling his way in along with the waves that are probably pushing him in. But they do show a picture, I think, of this beach. And I've heard that, over there's black bottom to the seafloor. Well, there's a ton of black, and it's like starts about maybe 5 yards from shore and goes to maybe 20 yards from shore, 30 yards from shore, and then it lightens up. So you wouldn't be able to see a shark because it's going to be dark on the seafloor way past where you're going to be able to see the shark coming in over that lighter area, which is past the black, but it's completely black. Looks like a seaweed or something from the aerial shot of the way that it's sitting there, but it is black, and you would not be able to see the dark shape of a shark if you're in that water. So I don't blame them for not letting people get into the water, at least banning it. I mean, it's not like you're not letting people get in there. We run into these attacks there all the time, where the beach is closed, there's no swimming because of this, there's no surfing because of this, and they go out there anyway. So he loses his foot. He thinks it was a tiger or a bull shark. It probably was a decent sized shark, 6 feet or over. Usually the culprits over there are the bull and the tiger. Again, great whites is too warm of waters for the great white. I haven't heard of a great white being in Brazil, at least in Recife there in Brazil. Just like I haven't heard of a great white being in Reunion. So I have to look at the line there, but the great white is out of the question when it gets too hot, when you're real close to the equator, the middle of the earth on a horizontal line. that's too warm for the sharks, and you got about 5 degrees each way that they won't go into, the great whites. The other sharks like it, but the great whites don't like overly heated water. I don't think anybody knows how cold of water great whites will go into and, you know, survive and thrive in. Let's use Shark World saying. Yeah, so this attack occurred at 50 yards out or closer to shore, which means he was really close to being right on top of that dark black area where you look down and it's black. So when he was paddling back in, he probably couldn't see the shark at all. He was saying that he could feel it trying underneath him, but there's no way he could probably see it because of the color of the water is probably going to match the shark pretty closely, and it'd be pretty hard to see. And he would have gone through that, like I said, until he's almost to shore. He's in this black covered ground, seafloor, and you can't really see. So being 50 yards out, he's definitely real close to the outer edge of that, if not already in it, and he wouldn't have seen the shark come up until it bit him. And you know, he says he was looking back when the shark had him by the left foot and was hanging on there, and finally it took this foot off. And the fact that there was a delay in the removal of the foot like that, have had that happen with tiger sharks, with the gentleman that was out doing the he was in Hawaii, he was fishing from a kayak, and he had his feet hanging into the water, and a tiger came up and grabbed him all the way up to the shin and then shredded his shin leg all the way down, I believe removing his foot, and he passed away before he got to shore. Same type of thing, but I would think that this is probably a bull. But it could be a tiger, but it's probably one of the two, and like I said, of a decent size, you know, 5-6 footer could definitely take your foot off of either one. You know, I would just think that a tiger shark would have taken the foot off a lot quicker than this sounded like it happened. So that's the attack, not an attempt to predate. We don't know what size shark or what type of shark. Stay out of waters where it's black on the seafloor. Not a good thing. Okay, now we're going to head over to Lighthouse Beach, and that is over in New South Wales, Australia. The date on this attack is November 10th of 2015. Sam Morgan, he is 20 years old, and he is a surfer, and he goes out to surf. The day that he's going out surfing at 70 degrees, it's a decent looking day, clear skies. But what happened previously, there was a heavy rain in the northwest side of the Australia, and this caused rains to run off from the groundwater into the ocean, making it sharky conditions. So he's out there the day after rains, heavy rains, and he's in what you would call sharky conditions. And he's out there, and nobody really, I don't think many people witnessed the actual attack. I think they saw it after he was thrashing around in the water, but I don't think anybody saw the shark itself. And he ended up making his own way back to shore. A 12-year-old witness that was on the beach said that he made his own way in. Nobody went out to help him, and he came walking in off of the beach. He got a bite to the thigh, which surprises me that he was able to walk himself onto the beach, because it's a big one. The upper jaw went into the back of his thigh, and the lower jaw went into the board, but it's a tri-fin board, I do believe, and one of the fins actually had the lower jaw in there. And it's quite possible that when this thing feels that on its lower palate, I guess, underneath its upper jaw, when it starts feeling that in its soft tissue, it might let up on you. But it could just be the normal, like we get here, attacks by a great white on a surfer. So he gets bitten once. I believe it was a 38 centimeter long bite to the thigh, a very big one, and he makes his way in. They identified, there was a expert around on the beach, I believe, and he identified the board as saying that it was a bull shark of about 10 feet that grabbed onto his legs. So we got a 10-foot bull shark that bites him once in the leg. This happened at 6:15 p.m. So, not dusk, just in the evening, early evening, late afternoon, just after late afternoon. So it's not like he's out there surfing at dusk or at dawn. He's out there in normal weather, normal at least brightness, but like I said, this storm the day before, I believe it might have been a couple days of storming. That, you know, pushes everything into the water, makes it murky. Sharks like to, I think sharks like to hunt in that because it gives them more cover, and that's why there's so many attacks when there's so few people in the water in conditions like that. Whereas you have a clear sunny day, it hasn't rained in forever, the water's clear, it's whatever color it is, but it's clear unless it's black like over at Hesafate. But it's clear water, you feel good about going in the water. And then if it's rainy, if it's overcast, you got the gray looking top of the water, there's going to be less people in the water. Attacks still happen. So that's why I call it sharky water. That's the attack on Sam Morgan, an attack not an attempt to predate by a bull shark 10 feet, and we'll move on. Okay, now we're going to head over to Pago Pago Harbor, which is over in American Samoa. But this is close to a tuna cannery, a place that goes ahead and they go ahead and process tuna. So not the best place to be. Tuna, you know, blood and offal and everything being entered into the water there is going to attract fish, which is going to attract bigger fish, which is going to attract sharks. So he goes out swimming, and his name is Kosuo Mizokawa, and he is out, and he's the captain of this ship and schooner, it sounds like, and they are at dock in the harbor near this tuna cannery, and he goes into the water for a swim. He is swimming at the stern of the boat, which is the back of the boat, and he is attacked by a shark. 3 Samoans, they jump into the water and bring the captain back on board, but Kosuo ended up with, it says, wounds from an attack. The one says that he was bitten by the shark and it severed an artery, but in the newspaper article clipping I saw, it says wounds. So it sounds like he was bitten multiple times by whatever size shark got a hold of him. You know, being near a cannery right there, and you're in a large ship, which, you know, fish are going to be curious about, and then the sharks are going to be curious about them fish. They're curious about being underneath there, hiding from the bigger fish. So, you know, just ends up with a fatality. It sounds like it's probably a survivable attack if it hadn't got the artery. So this is an attack, not an attempt to predate, a fatality. We just don't know what type of shark or what size, and it's an attack on Kosuo Mizokawa, and we will move on. Yeah, now we're going to finish out our unprovoked attacks. We are going to head over to Fingal Beach, and that is over in New South Wales, Australia. The date on this attack is January 11th of 2009. Jonathan Beard, 31 years old, he is out and he is doing some surfing. He's doing some morning surfing. He's out with 4 friends, 3 or 4 other friends. And it's 7 o'clock in the morning, and they don't say how far from shore, the depth of the water. He's just out surfing with his buddies. It sounds like he's sitting on his board, but he might be laying on the board. Either way, his shark hits him. He says something came up from underneath him and hit him like a train. And he says it lifted him up out of the water like a dog or something. But he didn't say that he saw the shark. He just felt it hit him. Then when he looked down, he saw blood. So the thing hit him real quick, lifted him out of the water, and it must have just swam off right after that. And he ends up getting taken into the beach, and he says that he put his legs, both of his legs up in the air, so you hold your feet up in the air, bent at the knees, and he's paddling to shore, and his friends end up getting him and taking him in. He says he was just happy to get away from that area. He knew that his leg felt like it was falling off. He had a 42 centimeter cut to his laceration to his leg. I don't know if it was a left leg or right leg, but that's a huge cut. They said done by a 3.5 meter great white shark, so you're talking 11 feet, 10 and a half, 11 foot great white shark that grabbed him momentarily, a single bite, that didn't shake, just bit him and let him go. They said that it came 2 centimeters, so that's just under an inch from one of his arteries, and it would have, his femoral artery, I believe it is, and it would have, he would have bled out before he even made it back to the beach. Luckily, it did not get that, so Jonathan Beard ends up with an attack, not an attempt to predate, a big wound, and Doesn't sound like it was avulsed. They didn't mention that, or that there was any kind of tissue removal, so hopefully he just had to get sewn up, do a little bit of, rehab, and be pretty much 100% after that attack, luckily, with the run-in with the great white shark over in Australia. So that's the attack on Jonathan Beard, an attack, not an attempt to predate, 11-foot great white shark. We'll put this down as, and that's the end of that. Stick around. We got What Were You Thinking, and some other shark business to talk about. Okay. What Were You Thinking? In August 29th of 1962 at Solana Beach, California. Knox Harris, 39 years old, he is out and he is doing some abalone diving. So you go down there and you have a little bar, about this long, and you pry up the abalone and you take them up and clean them or whatever up on the boat and toss the shells overboard, I would imagine. But anyway, so he's down there abalone diving and he's got his bar with him, and he runs across a 4-foot horn shark. And he decides he's going to take his bar and he hits the shark with it. The shark in turn turns and comes and bites him in the shoulder. A 4-foot horn shark. I don't know what their mouths look. I don't know anything about them other than they don't like to be hit when you're in the water with them, especially with the steel bar. So this shark ends up turning and biting Knox Harris. Knox Harris ends up with not an attack. This is called a provoked attack. And these are what I call provoked attacks, where it's the victim's actions cause the shark to turn and bite them. That's provoked attack. It's not somebody fishing just before an attack. It's not somebody that had their hot dog knocked overboard when they're out fishing and 2 miles away a shark bites somebody. It's not caused by those things. Those are not provoked. Provoked is this guy hitting the shark. Gustavo Ramos that kicked the tiger shark, about an 8-foot, 10-foot tiger shark, after his bag of octopus. He decided to kick it. It turned and bit him up. I think it bit him in both arms and in the chest. You had the other person that went ahead, a woman over there, picked up the lemon shark, takes a selfie with it, ends up bitten in the finger, a real minor wound, but she ends up with over $10,000 in fines because it's in a protected area, protected species. But she wouldn't have been bitten had she not picked up that little baby shark. That little baby shark would not have bitten her. It's caused directly by what the person there had done. Not somebody fishing further away, not somebody on some boat that dumped something off. It's caused by what the person did. That's provoked. End of list. So that's what Knox Harris is, a provoked attack, something that probably wouldn't have happened had he not went ahead and hit that shark. So there you have it. Now we'll get into the end of the show here. First of all, I did a interview with Joyce. Joyce got a hold of me. She's a viewer. It sounds like she's a newer viewer. Found me through Google. She was interested in shark attacks, and she Googled shark attacks, and like she said, she found me on there and watched some of the shows, and she wanted to interview me. She was doing a paper for her university over there in Australia, so we did a Zoom call. About a week later, we did a Zoom call and about a 25-minute interview, 20-minute interview. But it was great because it was my first interview about shark attacks. I've done one other interview in my first year before the channel was shut down by YouTube. I did an interview with Chatting with Betsy, a really good interview with her radio show. But that was about me and about the show that I made. It wasn't really about shark attacks. This is the first thing I did where somebody asked me about shark attacks. Very good interview, they were excellent questions. It was everything that I would have asked somebody that deals with shark attacks. So it was very well done, and thank you, Joyce, if you're out there. Really well done, and I enjoyed it. So there you go. I did my first interview as far as about shark attacks. The next thing is they had, I believe Ali and a couple others sent me this one, shark nets. They had a bait ball go through shark nets, and bait balls are made up of usually smaller fish, but they can come to pretty big fish. Stay away from bait balls, first of all. Everything goes after bait balls. If you're out in the middle of the ocean and you see a bait ball by you and you're in the bait ball, you could be swallowed up by one of those big basking sharks that comes up and swallows it all. I don't think basking sharks eat those. I think they eat, oh, maybe they do. But anyway, you don't want to be by bait ball because sharks will swim through there and bite at it. Other fish will swim through there and just, they go through, like swordfish will go through and stab the fish, and then they'll eat the fish afterwards. You can get injured really well in a bait ball by fish that are going in there and they're going ahead and feeding. But the thing about this bait ball is it was on shore. It actually went inside of the shark nets and caused a feeding frenzy inside of the shark nets. So they have these shark nets, which I told you before, they're not fail-safe, and they're not even, you know, they're about as scientific as the rest of everything they say about sharks. They're not. You know, who says that sharks swim in to the shore at the top of the water and then swim out on the bottom? Who made that up? Because that's what I'm starting to see, is that these people are just making up stuff, from bull sharks in fresh water to shark nets do anything to they stop sharks from coming in because they come in at the top of the water. There's nothing backing that up, nothing at all. It's just a false sense of security. Now they do work because a lot of things just swim into them. I mean, once you swim into it, you can't back up if you're a fish, so you're pretty much done. Turtles get caught in them, dolphins get caught in them. They kill more other animals than sharks, so I've never been a fan of them. And I've always been to where if you need sharks nets to be in the water, you need to be out of the water. End of story. Or take your chances, like a lot of people will do. But you put up these shark nets and make people think that they're safe, and yeah, there's not a lot of attacks that end up happening in those areas, especially Shirley Durden. I mean, once they put up shark nets after she was attacked, where she was attacked, there wasn't another attack for like 20 years or 25 years or something. So it does cut down on them, but you're going ahead and killing a lot of unnecessary fish when you do that. So that's the thing about the shark nets. I just thought it was crazy that you know, the bait ball ended up inside the shark nets on the shore side of the shark nets, and then the sharks followed them, and all the sharks are attacking the fish inside of the shark nets, where people swim probably with the sense that, hey, I'm safe because I have a net here. You're safe because the sharks aren't bothering you. That's about it. So that's on that one. Now they just had an attack. Guy was over in it sounds like a river mouth doing some surfing, and he was bitten and took a big chunk out of his board, a nice chunk out of his board. Looks like if it was you know, like I'm thinking a bull shark, it was about an 8-footer, 8 or 10 foot by the chunk that I see out of his board. But it's crazy, his buddy was out there, and it wasn't a surfer, he was foil boarding. So you're stand up and you have the foil board, it's got a big, kind of stands above the water and glides along. It's kind of a weird thing, but he was on one of those foil boards, and he ends up down, and obviously his friend could see blood. At first he thought that he cut himself on the foil board itself, because there's a bunch of sharp things on there that he says very sharp. But as he was getting closer, he heard him say the word shark, and he was only 50 yards from him, but he still paddled his way straight over to him. And he said that as he was getting close, pieces of foamy board, it was foamy pieces of board that started popping up to the surface of the water. So that shark's below him, getting rid of all the pieces of board that ended up in its mouth. So he was like, yeah, they must have been in the shark's mouth, and because they just started appearing at the water surface. He gets to his buddy and takes him in. He survives. Didn't hear what size shark it was, but you know, you're in a river mouth, a nice sized bull shark, and when you say nice sized bull shark, lethal at 5 feet. That's the thing about the great white and the other two, is those other two are real lethal, a lot smaller, especially the bull shark. We've had 5-6 footers drag people out or try to drag people out. So you know, that's the problem with the bull shark, especially as you run into a 6-footer, it might drag you out to its friends, which I believe his name is Jonathan. What was his name? Oh, it was terrible. He was dragged offshore by a smaller bull shark, and 3 fins converged on him, and they found pieces of him on 3 different beaches. So you know, You don't want to run into that. So that was a crazy attack on that, especially that this guy is seeing the board suddenly popping up, little pieces of board that is obviously in the shark's mouth underneath him as he's going to rescue his buddy. But he says that he knew that when he heard shark that it was a shark, but it didn't stop him. He was going to save his buddy. Good on you. That's a great thing to do. So that's the shark things about that. I did look at O-Search and was checking that out. Nothing really close to shore. They don't have anything tagged anywhere except off the east coast of the United States. Whereas, you know, I don't have questions about those sharks. I want to know about the ones off the west coast. I'd rather have them be tagging those, because those are the ones that make the trip over to Hawaii and back. I want to see where those sharks are going, and especially the bigger ones. So right now they're just up and down the coast from up by New Brunswick, up in, you know, Canada, all the way down to Florida. They're just all the way along that coast, and mostly great white sharks that are pinging. So you know, none of them are really close to shore like I've seen them in the past. Usually if I see that they're within a mile of the shore, I'll mention it, but most of them look a couple of miles at least offshore, probably along the shelf, the continental shelf, the drop off where it gets deeper water. That's where they can ambush fish, where they wouldn't be able to catch them out in the open. So that was interesting too. So there's all of that. I did go down and do my hunting and fishing with my dad. We'll start out with the fishing. The fishing went great as far as everything worked. The motor worked. Both the batteries worked fine. We had the first day out on the beach, out on the water. I think we had one other day where everything worked. But like that other day, we caught nothing. We caught stuff. I couldn't get it to the boat. I hooked the biggest fish I've ever hooked in my life. We went right back to the area that we had fished at a month before over at Grassy Pond. And I says, that's the tree right there. I says, because I was shooting right underneath that branch, and if it landed right underneath that branch, they'd hit it. Sure enough, they're still there. And I hooked up on one, the first one, and it was a decent size feel to it, and it went out and it wrapped itself around something and the line broke. So the first one, the lines broke, and I'm using an 8-pound test, but it wrapped itself around something to break the line. Now the second time this happened, I lost 3 of them. The second time it happened, I caught the fish, it just swam away, and I pull up my line, and it's got that telltale squiggle to it. I didn't tie my didn't tie my lure right. So I take my other, because I got 2 of them, I believe, that are set up for catfish. I take the other one and throw it out there. Just as I'm casting, we're about 15 yards from this tree, and there's a gap next to the tree to the left. There's a nice gap, and that's where you want to be. Well, I decided to cast right at that tree, just stop short of it. As I let my cast go, I see this fish, 2 fish. See one fish jump and a bigger fish jump at him. And then my lure hits the water and immediately, boom. It grabs it. I set the hook and it jumps its body out of the water. My dad didn't see its body out of the water, I did, and that thing was about this fat. It was about this thick, because I saw the body curl back into the water. This is a monster fish. Well, he saw its white belly as it swam sideways. Now it's swimming sideways. I'm getting ready to set the hook, and boom, it takes that one, and I get that back in that shrivelly shit again. So I had my dad go ahead and tie my other one on. He uses a uniknot, which he always wants me to learn, which I gotta pull up on YouTube and learn it real quick. Because my knot's obviously not working, and it works well when I tie it right, but it'd been so long since I fished, I think I did something wrong, because I lost 2 just squirreling away. So now I got to catch those with the hook in their mouth, especially that bigger one. So that was the fishing. It was a good day of fishing. We fished all day. Didn't catch anything really. Didn't even catch small bluegill. We're looking for crappie, black crappie. We think they're in there. We just got to find out where they're at. When we were on Paradise Lake, it took us a while to find where they were at. So that was the fishing. The golf, pretty uneventful. I didn't shoot terrible, I didn't shoot great. The first round I shot 50 and 52, so that's, 102 or something like that, which is not terrible for me. It's better than what I had been doing. But I did have two things happen. They have a long par 5 at Stone Creek, and it goes along the water. And this is a long hole. I mean, it's probably about 500 yards. I hit my drive. I hit a good drive, about 240 out, but I'm off to the left. I wanted to avoid the water, so I'm all the way across, off of the fairway, off to the left, and then you have the cart path over there. Well, I'm on this hill. I'm like, screw it. I take out my 3-wood and I crush this 3-wood. I hit the best 3-wood I've ever hit in my life, dead straight. So now when you get up to the green, off to the right before you get to the green, that water comes out pretty far. And I'm up there, we're looking for my dad's ball, we find it. Now I'm looking for my ball out before the green, I can't find it. I'm like, I told my dad, I'm in that water. He says, you're up on the green up there. I look and I'm on the green in 2. I've never been on a par 5 and 2. I have one other time and that was at Rattle Run here in Michigan. Their first hole is a 300, it's a short par 5 and you can reach with a 3-wood in your second shot, sometimes with a 5-wood. But here I had to crush a 3-wood and I'm 30 feet, maybe 35 feet, but it's straight at the pin. If you walk from where I hit straight at the pin, my ball is 30 feet before the pin. So I walk up there and it's an uphill putt and I hit the putt and I didn't leave it short, which is one of the things that I don't want to do on a birdie or a eagle putt. But the bend on it was crazy and it went and it bent and I'm going uphill, like I said, but this thing bent to the right, so it wasn't even close to the hole. When I got to the hole, I was probably a foot to the right of the hole already, and it went another 3 foot over to the right. Now I got a bending to the left downhill putt, which I missed and ended up parring that thing. I ended up parring when I had an eagle putt. That was one of the things. The other thing was the second day was like the first day, except I'm in almost every trap. I'm almost in a trap on every hole. And I managed to take a 9 on a par 3. They have a par 3 that's only 155 yards to the front of the green and about 160 to where they have the pin. Well, instead of taking out a 6-iron and hitting an easy shot, I take out a 7-iron and I'm going to crush this thing and put it in the back by where they have the pin on that day. So I hit the ball and I hit it weird. The club spun in my hand and it ends up off to the right. It's only 15, 20 yards off of where the pin is, but it's behind a trap. Now, when I walked over there, I had just my pitching wedge and my putter. My pitching wedge I love to use to pitch because I can judge distances and use my backswing to get me the distance I need. I love that club for it. Well, I need to jump up over this trap and it's only a short ways. I don't want to walk back to the cart. So I take and I open up the face of my pitching wedge and I swing and this thing goes up. And I swear, 3 more inches, it would have been perfect. It hits and falls, rolls back into the trap. So that was my second shot. The next 3 were to get the hell out. The next one was to get back on the green because the one that got out didn't get on the green. So I had to get it on the green. 3 putted, 9 on a par 3. Never done that. So that's the good and the bad from the golf. There really wasn't anything really to talk about in that. So, that's the update. Everything going on with the show. If you end up going into those waters, you are much more afraid of these sharks than they are of you.